Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. My name is Logan, and today we will be diving into Russell Wilson's debut with the Pittsburgh Steelers in his Week 7 game tape against the New York Football Jets. Before we get started, I encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on any future Nerd Sesh content. I was a big supporter of Justin Fields staying the starter in Pittsburgh. Fields had led them to a 4-2 record prior to Russ taking over as quarterback, but the offense was noticeably limited. Russ comes in first week with the Steelers, and they put up a season high 37 points, and the offense looked more explosive than they had in years. Russ individually put up 264 yards, 2 TDs, and posted a passer rating of 109. So did Russ officially turn back the clock? Are we going to let Russ cook? Or was this just a fluke, a one-off performance that we can write off? Well, without further ado, let's get into the tape. First play we're going to take a look at here is drive number 5, play number 3, a 2nd and 17. This is the biggest play of the game for the Steelers offense, a 44-yard completion to George Pickens. The Jets are going to come out here, what looks like to be a cover 3, and the problem with this is against a go route with GP in cover 3, it's just a one-on-one ball. Jets corner takes a minute to turn his head around to the football. GP spots it and goes and gets it, and this is the theme of a lot of the plays in this game. I'm not going to dress it up. It's not super sophisticated. It really is getting one-on-one matchups with George Pickens and just being willing to throw the ball. It's really as simple as that. And Russell just has more of a willingness to take these shots. GP gets his head around early, gets leverage, maneuvers back to the football and brings it in. He is an elite one-on-one receiver. He is an elite jump ball guy. When it's a 50-50, it's not really a 50-50. It's more like 80-20 George Pickens. A lot of the film today is going to surround drawing up and scheming one-on-ones for George Pickens and Russ getting him the football. It's as simple as that. Russ is willing to air this one out to GP. He gets it out. GP goes and gets it. Next play we're going to take a look at here is drive number 7, play number 3, 2nd and 7. Russell Wilson, more of the same here, is going to air one up, one-on-one coverage, George Pickens versus Sauce Gardner. Safety is going to turn here late. He's going to flip his hips. You've got one single high safety. And so Wilson knows that if he gets this ball out early, he's just not going to have enough time. The safety is not going to have enough time to make a play and break on this football. And he just trusts George. This is something that has been completely devoid in the Steelers offense post Big Ben. Quarterbacks not willing to take shots. Like, you would never see this in the Matt Canada offense, right? You would never see this with Kenny Pickett. You never saw this with Mitch Trubisky. And you didn't see this with Justin Fields. Russ has better touch than all those guys. He's more willing to throw these passes. His timing and anticipation is better. It just unlocks a dynamic in the Steelers offense that we really have not seen post Big Ben, and it is quite refreshing to see them willing to take shots. The vertical passing game has not existed for the Pittsburgh Steelers post Big Ben. And finally, in a football game, we got glimpses of it last year with Mason Rudolph. I'm not going to act like we didn't. But they swing games. These are momentum, drive-changing, big shot plays. The Steelers offense has had none of this over the past few seasons, and we got to see it against the Jets. Again, this is going to be a big part of the tape today, is just Russ being willing to throw it up to GP in single coverage. Doesn't make a play here. I'll credit. I think George Pickens is great at tracking balls. Is just a knack for figuring out how to get to them. And he almost makes this play here. Not my favorite DPI call. You see them wrestling a little bit here up the sideline. I just think it's because Sauce doesn't turn his head back around to this football. If Sauce had turned his head to this football, I don't think the refs whistle this one, but he doesn't. And again, it swings the game. GP may not make the play, but this is essentially a 30 to 40-yard gain here because of the defensive pass interference. 2 plays after that one, we have got a touchdown for George Pickens on a fade route. I'm not going to dress this one up too much. We don't need to dwell on it. George Pickens, one-on-one versus a cornerback. Russ throws a beautiful ball to the back of the end zone, and GP goes and gets it. One-on-one. George Pickens is going to win. And I do want to give credit. The one nuanced piece here, this is great play design. I want you to watch what the Steelers do in pre-snap. Calvin Austin is going to motion left, and it brings a cornerback with him to the left side, which just effectively gives George Pickens one-on-one with the cornerback, which is just The Steelers need to do this more often. Anytime they can scheme up George Pickens one-on-one, it is advantage George Pickens. He is that kind of game-changing receiver. So just a little nuance here in the Arthur Smith offense. At the line of scrimmage, motioning Austin out left, Warren back with Wilson next to him, just easily gets one-on-one with George Pickens. Beautiful play design by Arthur Smith. Beautifully placed ball by Russell Wilson. And GP goes and gets it. That's what he does. Next play we're going to take a look at is drive number 10, play number 2, 2nd and 10. Calvin Austin, the third, is going to get sprung here for 36 yards. A couple of things I want to take a look at here. So Austin, wide open over the middle on a deep dig, but how does he get this wide open? Well, it's the route concept. I want you to take a look at GP and Calvin Austin here on this route. GP right up the middle, up the seam, and Austin is going to cut right underneath him, which just takes his man out of the play. Like, it effectively sets a monster screen on Sauce Gardner, which just creates all this space for Calvin Austin to get loose on. Along with that, I like the route concept. I like the design. There also seems to be a little bit of a miscommunication here with Sauce Gardner. I don't know if Sauce just doesn't break on this ball or he thinks he's supposed to be in zone coverage up high. It seems like everybody else is playing man coverage, and Sauce was just willing to drop on him. So poor Jets coverage, either individually on Sauce Gardner's part or just a miscommunication. Jets defense, this is a complete defensive breakdown. So I don't know if Sauce got lost on this play, lost in the sauce, man. Shout out. I don't know if that's what happened, but just a defensive breakdown here from the Jets. But I do like this route concept. This would work. Austin ducks right underneath GP on the seam, wide open for a big gain. The Grim Reaper has returned. No, it's not Patrick Mahomes. It is George Pickens. This is the funniest play of this game. Drive number 8, play number 3, 3rd and 7. Russell Wilson is going to air this one out to George Pickens for a 37-yard completion. And it's going to bounce off the back of the Jets' corner here. And GP is just going to come away with this ball. So a few things. One, I would love to give Russell Wilson credit for this completion or say something nice. The only thing that I can say is that he was willing to throw it. That's the only nice thing I can say about this play from Russ. You do see George Pickens' freakish athletic gifts, though, man. Like, I can't quantify this, right, in any sort of, like, statistical manner, but his body control and hand-eye coordination is out of this world. This is such a hard play to make. A ball that ricochets and he recollects it, comes away with the ball, bobbles it, and still manages to come up with this play. George Pickens is a freaking superstar, man. Like, I've watched a lot of receivers in my time, man. And, you know, I don't think Pickens is like some sort of elite, crispy route runner, but he is an athletic freak. His body control, his hands, his hand-eye coordination, his balance, everything that goes into being an elite one-on-one physical kind of receiver, George Pickens has it. And this is just a dynamic that was lost in the Steelers' offense. You know, not being able to get him the ball on deep shots. We need to do more of this. Again, this is not Russell Wilson. All credit goes to George Pickens to making this play, because this probably should have been picked off. This is so woefully underthrown. Honestly, I mean, Russ should hit George in stride, and this should be more of a home run. George Pickens makes this play. He is a number one receiver. Don't let any Neanderthals tell you otherwise. The guy's a superstar that has just been handicapped by horrid quarterback play. All right, next play we're going to take a look at here is 3 plays after that one. Drive number 8, play number 6, 3rd and 5, and we're going to see Russell Wilson find Pat Freiermuth for a 21-yard completion. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is just the individual play of Russ and Pat Freiermuth. I think this is a really good ball from Russ. Now, it's not perfectly thrown. Pat has to make a one-handed grab to go and get this. It's a phenomenal catch by Pat. Like, this is so difficult. Just reaches out, palms that thing with one hand. But I like this throw from Russ because he puts it out of, you know, where the corner can even make a play on this ball. This is only a ball that Pat Freiermuth can make. So this is great touch from Russ, and it's a phenomenal grab by Pat Freiermuth. But what I also want to highlight on this play, too, is the route concept here. It's a little cheeky. It is a little cheeky here from Arthur Smith, and this is on tape a lot. Little pick plays where Van Jefferson, Pat gives him a little stutter step here at the line of scrimmage, and Van Jefferson is going to run right where the cornerback is, but ghost screen him. So where he lights up a little bit just because he doesn't want to run into Van Jefferson. But that right there gives Freiermuth the 1 to 2 step advantage he needs to create an advantage, and the ball is already out. Like, this is a timing and touch play here from Russ. And it's a good play design, but it's everything working together. It's the route combination here low, creating the advantage for Freiermuth. It's the ball already being out, great touch from Russ, and it's the one-handed grab from Pat Freiermuth. It's everything working together, and it's phenomenally executed. There's a lot of these little pick plays that create advantages for players on the tape from this game, and I just want to commend Arthur Smith. It's the most nuanced the Steelers' offense has looked in quite some time. We're not going to dwell on this one too long because it is an incomplete pass, but drive number 6, play number 3, 1st and 20. I just want to demonstrate Russ willing to take shots. Notices that George Pickens has one-on-one with the safety. Jets drop into a zone, and George is going to have one-on-one, and it's just the willingness to throw this pass. And George almost comes up with it, man. Like, I don't want to dwell too much on a play that a wide receiver almost made. The defensive back is mauling George. He's all over him. He's doing his damnedest to break this pass up, and he's playing on the ball. So, like, I don't think this is DPI or anything like that, right? Like, his head is turned around. He's making a play on the football. George still almost catches this pass. George is an alien. George Pickens is an alien. Again, I don't want to dwell on this one too long. It's an incomplete pass, but Russ is willing to throw these one-on-one balls to George, one, because he trusts George, but also because he trusts his touch. It literally is simply the willingness to take the shots downfield, the threat to take shots downfield that makes all the difference with Russ. Next play we're going to take a look at here is play number 5 of drive number 5, a 2nd and 7. Russ is going to connect with Darnell Washington for an 18-yard completion. And there's a few things I want to highlight on this play. One, the deception. Heavy set. We've got 3 tight ends technically on the field. Connor Hayward, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, which is going to indicate to the Jets that we are most likely running this football. That's what makes this play action so effective here with Russ and Jaylen Warren. It's going to freeze the linebackers for a sec, and it's going to leave them out of position to make a play on either of the guys in open space. And they're also going to use a block and release with Darnell Washington, which is the second part of this play. They just need Darnell Washington on the field more. And I've been saying this for a long time now, but I would run so many sets with him and Freiermuth on the field. One, because he's an elite run blocker. The guy is comically massive. He is really, really effective as a blocker. It's like having an extra tackle on the field. The guy's super strong and he's super big. So I just want him on the field more when we are running the football. But he's really effective in a situation like this where you just run him as a blocker and a release and there's nobody on him. Wide open, scampering up the field, and he's got good hands. He can move in space. Get Darnell on the field more, man. Darnell Washington needs more snaps. I love the kid, and I think you can weaponize his skill set in a lot of different ways. For us on this play, nothing too complicated. Good play action fake. Gets the ball out early. Avoids the defender. Nothing really special on him. I credit this more to Arthur Smith. Really good play call. Play Darnell, man. Play Darnell. He knows what he's doing. All right, next play we're going to take a look at here is drive number 6, play number 1, a 1st and 10 here for the Steelers. And you see more of the same from the last play. We're going to get a play action fake, and we're going to find a tight end on the drag route. But there's a few little things about this play that I love what the Steelers do. First, I want you to take a look at Darnell at the left tackle and the left guard. So Darnell Washington, Dan Moore, and Isaac Sumalo. They're going to pull right. And it's just a general part of football theory. I learned this from a professor I had in college who shot football as a photographer, and he would always say, look at the guards on every given play. They're going to tell you where the play is going. And that's generally what you can use as a rule of thumb as a defensive player. Follow the guards. They're going to tell you where the play is going. And they're going to pull Dan Moore and Isaac Sumalo right. And Warren is going to run right on a play action fake. So it's going to pull the linebackers and an edge rusher to that right side. And it's just going to freeze up the linebacker enough to where Pat Freiermuth can sneak under him and get a few steps on him to create this big advantage, which makes this big explosive play for the Steelers offense. So great play design. I've really been impressed with what I saw from Arthur Smith in this game. But also, Russell Wilson. Russ could very easily have gotten sacked here because they're pulling all these guys to the right to disguise this play. It frees up a free edge rusher, and Russ notices him and in one fell swoop stops, plants his feet, leaps, and gets this ball out before he's sacked. It's a great play from Russ. It's not too complicated, but the reaction time from Russ to stop on a dime, to jump, and know he's got to get rid of this football. Great stuff here from Russ. Great play design. Everything about this play, man. Beautiful work here from Arthur Smith and the Steelers offense. All right, time to look at some negative plays, and I just want to highlight the differences between Russ and Justin Fields. Drive 3, play number 3, 3rd and 12 is the first one that we're going to take a look at here, and Russ's pass is going to fall incomplete to Pat Freiermuth. And the pressure gets home immediately. Left tackle Dan Moore gets beat very early. Russ is flushed out left, and this ball is batted down by a Jets defensive tackle. The only reason that I highlight this play as a negative one is because I think Justin Fields just gives the Steelers a better chance to make this individual play. And I'll hold off. We'll get into big takeaways and the difference between Fields and Russ and who should start moving forward here in a minute. But this is a play that I feel like Justin Fields would just have a better opportunity at making. Again, this is one play out of a lot of successful ones from the Steelers offense, but this is one where I just feel Russ's athletic limitations should be highlighted. The Steelers' offensive line is not good. I'm going to give them credit here in a minute, too. I've been very impressed with what the Steelers have been able to do with so many significant injuries on the offensive line. But this is where Russ's physical and athletic limitations should be noted. Fields just objectively has a better chance at turning the corner here and making chicken, salad out of chicken you-know-what. Very similar theory here on this play. Drive 5, play number 8, 3rd and 10. And this is just a play that I feel Justin Fields has a better opportunity to make. Again, I don't want to be too critical of Russ, but in the red zone is where I wonder about the differences between these two quarterbacks. The Steelers were really efficient in the red zone trips in this game. I got to give them credit, but there's nothing doing here. This is phenomenal coverage from the Jets. They have every single route bottled up. Russ has time in the pocket, but there's just nobody open. Again, 3rd and 10, you're looking to make it up. You're looking to get to the end zone. And this is a play where Wilson flushed out right, gets outside of the pocket, makes a throw. I'll give him credit for, just getting this ball off instead of taking a sack here. But we've really seen Fields thrive in the red zone. And again, this is a situation where everything else is buttoned up downfield. Fields just has a better chance to get in the open field and potentially scamper for either the first down or for a touchdown. Again, it's only a few plays in this game where I think it's really significant, but that could be the difference. And Fields is just athletically superior to Russ at this point in his career, and I feel like would have had a better chance of making this individual play. So what are some big takeaways about the Steelers moving forward? Well, before we get into the quarterback situation, my first big takeaway from the first part of this season is just that this is the best Steelers team in a long time. And I say that as a Steelers fan that has lived and breathed this team for all my life. This is the best Steelers team that I can remember in a long time. And the biggest difference is the defense. And you may be sitting there asking yourself, well, the defense is always great. So how is that any different? Well, it's the additions that they've made on the back end, right? This has always been an elite front seven, an elite unit, stopping the run, getting pressure on the quarterback, right? TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, all those guys get the shine and they get the praise, and they should. It's a great unit. But the big difference this year has been on the back end. I've always said this if you've watched Nerd Sesh or listened to the show for a while. When it comes to the Steelers, the biggest gaping hole that this defense has had has been at linebacker ever since Ryan Shazier got paralyzed. And that was heartbreaking. Not only was it heartbreaking, it took a real piece out of an elite defense. And now that they have added Patrick Queen, that has made one of the most significant differences for this team. But it's not just Patrick Queen. I feel like he gets a lot of the shine too. He's elite, but it's also Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson, rookie drafted out of NC State. Omar Khan did a phenomenal job this offseason. He basically traded Kenny Pickett for Peyton Wilson. What an upgrade, man. The guy's got great straight end-to-end speed. I think modern linebackers need that to make plays. He's all over the field, just his burst, his ability to cover sideline to sideline. It's a special, special ability, and Peyton Wilson has been a real standout rookie on the Steelers defense. Along with him, Landon Roberts, he has that big play against the Dallas Cowboys where he forces a fumble basically on the goal line. He's a phenomenal run stuffer. So that's one big key difference, is a different level of faith that I have in this linebackers, but there are no holes anymore. This was a Steelers defense that did have holes at linebacker. In the secondary, They don't anymore, in my opinion. And in the secondary, Minkah Fitzpatrick is the best safety in the NFL, in my opinion. I'm a little biased as a Steelers fan, sure. But even if you don't agree with that, I think he's one of the handful of best safeties in the league. Alongside him is the best safety we have ever had with Minka. For a while, it was Terrell Edmonds, and God bless Terrell Edmonds. I love him as a Virginia Tech alum. I am a proud Virginian. I just root for my Virginia boys. So I've rooted for Terrell Edmonds. Horrible in coverage. Horrible in coverage. Really good tackler, right? You can put him in the box. He'll do all that. Elliott is the total package. He's a hard hitter. He's really good in coverage. He's great as an addition in the run game. Like he's a real difference maker there, but he's also really good in coverage too. So this is the best safety that has ever played alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick. But along with him, it is the corners. Joey Porter Jr. has emerged over the last few seasons. Peasy Jr., as I like to call him, shout out to his pop, Steeler legend Joey Porter. Peasy Jr. is shut down. I think he's one of the best cornerbacks in football, point blank, period. I think he is already. Tremendous length, great man coverage. The guy's really, really good. And along with him, there's just better depth at that position, too. Dante Jackson, acquired in the Deontay Johnson trade, has been a real difference maker on tape. And Beanie Bishop Jr. in this game picks off Aaron Rodgers twice. So the Steelers' defense is so much deeper as a whole. And I just want to emphasize that the back end is not as bad as it has been. And this is the best Steelers defense in a long time. And I do want to give a lot of credit to the patchwork offensive line that the Steelers have been dealing with. Zach Frazier, stud center, out. James Daniels been playing great at guard this season, out. Troy Fontenot, the first round pick, has been out. And in have stepped Mason McCormick and Ray McCollum, and I think they have done a phenomenal job filling in those roles. That's not an easy job, stepping up as a depth offensive lineman, and they've done a really good job there. But specifically with this video and the quarterback dilemma, hand up. I was wrong about Russell Wilson, and I will own that. I thought Russell Wilson was washed. I didn't think he could play anymore. I thought his arm was shot. I thought he was seeing ghosts in the pocket. I thought his processing was terrible. And to be fair to myself, that's what has been on tape over the past year and over the past 2 years. Russell Wilson has been one of the worst quarterbacks on tape in the NFL. And I know he was really efficient last year, right? 26 TDs to 8 interceptions. He wasn't the reason the Broncos were winning those games was because of the defense and them forcing turnovers. But specifically, his leg up over Justin Fields is how he unlocks George Pickens. It's a huge difference maker. If Russell Wilson unlocks this version of George Pickens week to week, I definitely think we should start Russell Wilson. Now, both guys have their positives and their drawbacks. I'll get to that in a minute, but George Pickens is an elite receiver. I've always said this. I've said this for a long time now. His name is George, and the G stands for get him the damn ball. Get him the football. It's really simple. When you have an elite playmaker like that, you just need to get the ball in his hands. And I think unequivocally, Russell Wilson has just done a better job of getting George Pickens the football. And I know that Fields had some big shot plays with George that were taken back in early weeks, and those pained me due to Steelers penalties. But there was just a different willingness on tape from Russell Wilson to get George Pickens the ball. There was a concerted effort to get him the football, and I think he is the best player in the Steelers offense. I think he is the best offensive player the Steelers have had since Antonio Brown. And the game plan clearly revolved around getting the ball to George Pickens. I want the guy who gives George Pickens the best opportunity to get the football. And I think that's Russell Wilson. He's one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. I really believe that. When you look at his body control, his hands, his balance, his hand-eye coordination, GP is the real deal. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, he's been comically handicapped by limited quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. And like I said, I like GP with Fields, but I like him even more with Russell Wilson. And you think about the things that happened because of unlocking George Pickens, there's just other dominoes that fall when you get George Pickens the ball. There are other gears that start moving within this offense when you get GP the ball, specifically just opening up lighter boxes, threatening defenses over the top. It's general football theory, right? It's like the too high safety debate, right? When you play Mahomes or you play a Josh Allen, you need to consistently run too high safety man up against those guys or quarters, because you don't want to give up those big shot plays that swing the game. Defenses against the Steelers, because they're not scared of those plays over the top, can commit to one. They can play one high safety all game. They can drop more guys in the box, which hurts the Steelers' running game because there's more attention focused on those guys. When Russ is hitting big shot plays like that, what that adjustment forces the defense to do is commit to having more guys playing over the top because they've been getting burned, which then in turn opens up the running game for Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, which is exactly what I think you saw happen specifically in this football game after him and GP connected. There's just more of a willingness to throw downfield and throw 50-50 balls, and they are big shot plays that swing football games. I think Russ has that going for him. I think he's got better touch than Fields. I think he's got better timing within this offense than Fields, and I think he works better in play action than Fields. And the final argument for Wilson above Fields is the draft pick component of it. Now, admittedly, I will say, I think the draft pick component of this should have no bearing on who the Steelers should play at quarterback. I think fundamentally the Steelers should play who gives them the best opportunity to win football games. And I think they can win football games with either of these guys under center. But with how Russ unlocks George Pickens, I do believe Russ is the best guy for the Steelers at this time. And what I mean with the draft pick dilemma, if you're not clued into that, the Steelers gave up a 6th-round pick to acquire Justin Fields, very little capital. If Fields plays 51% of the snaps or more this season, then that pick will turn from a 6th-round pick to a 4th-round pick, which is a big difference. But like I said, that to me should have no bearing on who the Steelers play at QB. I think you play the guy that gives you the best opportunity to win games. But that being said, Fields does have tangible advantages over Russell Wilson. And it's mainly the athletic component. Russ just cannot have the impact that Fields has on the ground. And that's where I wonder and where I think we should look in future games if the pendulum swings back in Fields' favor, so to speak. And what I mean by that is if Russ is just under more duress, under a bad offensive line, if elite pass rushes are getting home against Russ. And I think they're going to be tested this week, right? They're going up against the Giants, who have Brian Burns, who should have Kayvon Thibodeau healthy. I think that's going to be a real test in the Russell Wilson experiment this upcoming game. And if he can really survive against elite defensive lines, right? The Jets are a really good defensive line too. I think the Giants are marginally better, especially as a pass rush. Dexter Lawrence too has led the NFL in sacks right up to this point in the season. So I think this game is going to tell us a lot about who the Steelers starter should be moving forward. But right now, I do believe it's Russ, and I think the Steelers can manage with this bad of an offensive line. But it certainly is something to monitor, right? Wilson can't impact the game the way Fields can athletically at this point in his career. But I think Russ is the guy moving forward. I think it's just more valuable having that vertical component of your passing game, which the Steelers' offense has been completely devoid of over the past few years, and with Fields under center. But I do think Fields has his positives, right? The athletic difference. I thought he was throwing the ball pretty well, and I thought he was protecting the football really well when he was starting. But what do you guys think? Is Russell Wilson the guy moving forward? Is Justin Fields the guy? Who do you think gives the Steelers the best opportunity to win football games moving forward? Let me know down in the comments section, and I will see you guys soon.